Australia, known for many things. Venomous snakes that can unalive you within an hour, octopus with a bite that could stop your heart, giant spiders with fangs like a gaboon viper that conveniently like to hide in your shoes, or the beaver duck known as a platypus that has venomous elbows that'll make you scream in pain for weeks. So whatever the hell this thing is. But what the Outback isn't known for, it's fertile farmlands. Farmers are struggling to grow crops in the fields of the Outback bush. But when they could manage to cultivate food, they were harassed by a bandit they couldn't touch. Emus. No, not hot topic and pessimistic attitudes. No, emus, the large flightless birds that kind of remind me of the raptors in Jurassic Park. See? Terrifying.
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
Well, after World War II, the Australian government gave plots of lands to local residents as a way to expand their territory and population into the Outback. It was almost like the pioneers of America that were given land as long as they could settle that land themselves. Think of it as a lazy way of having the plebs and the commoners do all the dirty work, so later Uncle Sam or Big Daddy government, whoever, can come on in, build a post office, and claim the glory for themselves. Well, a lot like their American counterparts that had to defend their homes from the Sioux and Comanche in their expansion west, well, these Australian homesteaders that were moving their lives into the Outback also had to fend off a natural outlaw, the emus. A once protected species, the world's second largest bird used to roam the earth with the dinosaurs. But they were put on the vermin list, aka the shoot to kill list, when 20,000 of them started ravaging crop fields in the Outback. After much pressure from the farmers, the Minister of Defense, George Pierce, put a green light out on these emu.
Gotta run to my farm, feed my emus for me. Here, feed them with this.
So he commissioned 2 soldiers from the 7th Heavy Battery, led by J.P. Meredith. These soldiers were armed with 10,000 rounds and 2 Lewis guns. They were expecting it to be a buffalo slaughter. Coming in at 28 pounds, water-cooled and firing the hog of a round, the British .303, the Lewis gun revolutionized the battlefield in a time when rifles were only as fast as you can operate the action. Sporting a mixing bowl with a capacity of 47 rounds, this weapon helped spread British colonization all across the world, 500 rounds per minute. In today's world, that's really not a lot, but back in the day, that was ungodly. Oh yeah, it even made a small cameo in Star Wars. Well, on November 2nd, the men spotted a mob of 50 emu near the district of Campaign. When the soldiers set up their bipods and started shooting, these long-necked ninjas did their best Keanu Reeves impression, pulling a Neo dodging the heavy .303 rounds fired from the Lewis guns. The birds scattered in all different directions like the rats in Ratatouille, making it hard for the soldiers to accurately hit their targets, leading to only a handful of the emu being unalived. Well, every pack, herd, flock, or pride has its leader, and emus are no different. With emu, the leader is usually the largest male. He sits like a lion, keeping a close eye on his pride, waiting for the slightest hint of danger. And with those first signs of danger, he starts to warn the mob, and like a bunch of meerkats, they pop their heads up looking for signs of trouble. And about that time, they all start to scatter like high schoolers at a party being busted by the cops. Well, like the captain of a ship making sure all the lifeboats are filled, the emus wait until every member is running before they make their mad dash to safety. Well, a few days after their humiliating defeat at the Battle of Campaign, the men stumble across a mob of 1,000 enemy emu. Outnumbered, the men bravely low-crawled into position, opening fire on the opposing force. Well, if this was the trenches of World War I, the enemies hurdling the wire, they'd be mowed down like a putting green. But these were no men. They were emu.
What is your profession?
So once the men opened fire, the giraffe geese, they scattered. Out of the 1,000 emu, only 10 were hit. Once the birds were up and running, there wasn't much the men could do about it. After all, your average emu runs about 30 miles per hour, while your average human, a brisk trot of about 8 miles an hour. So needless to say, once the birds were running, the men weren't a-gunning. But they say necessity is the mother of invention, so the men started planning. And they came up with an idea. Why not mount a gun on a vehicle? The idea sounds great, but it's a lot like communism. Beautiful on paper, terrible once it's put into practice. Back 90 years ago, they didn't have the modern suspension we have today. So needless to say, once the truck got moving, the accuracy dwindled with every bump. But this idea quickly came to an end when the men accidentally drove into an emu, causing the bird's head to get stuck in the steering wheel, almost leading them to go into a head-on collision with a tree. On December 10th, exactly 1 month, 1 week, and 1 day after the operation was given the green light, public humiliation caused the Australian government to call off its war on nature. 9,000 rounds and a little bit over 950 emu later, that's a ratio of 10 bullets to 1 emu. This operation was a failure, causing little to minimal damage to the emu populations. So you know what forces government efficiency? Moving from the public sector to the private. And just like government bureaucracy, this problem was solved when the government removed itself from the solution and started allowing the public to handle these emu. In 1934, the Australian government, they offered bounties on these birds to be collected by anybody that wanted to spend a nice Saturday in the outback.
It's done, sir.
Good job, old top. I see it work. I could use that.
Alas, all good things must come to an end. In 1999, the emus were taken off the wanted list and put back on the protection list, where they still remain today. Now, if this problem happened today, how could we solve it? Well, modern problems require modern solutions.
Future's now, old man.
In today's high-tech world, violence isn't always the answer. Well, not immediately at least. One of my favorite ways we humans try to control animal populations is with the Judas goat. This is a process where scientists tag and castrate a member of a targeted species, and after tagging and debagging the animal, it's released to find its herd while being tracked by a GPS. And once it's calm and cozy with its own kind, a helicopter comes over the ridge, Apocalypse Now style. Unaliving all the animals except for the Judas goat. Once the herd is culled, Judas, he's left with spicy memories, but he's alive. And tomorrow, he'll find his new herd that he'll inevitably help slaughter. Like the kudzu vine strangling the South, to reticulated pythons in the Florida Everglades decimating wildlife, to wild hogs that you could pay to shoot from a helicopter. We humans always believe that we can control nature, but like Jeff Goldblum said,
Life, finds a way.
if you enjoyed my video on the giant gangster geese that took on the Australian government, then please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until next time, see you beautiful bastards in the next video.
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.